Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Packernet Podcast. I am your host and resident panelist, as always, Ryan Schlipp. Check us out online, packernet.com. Find me on Twitter, pack_that out. Well, since I missed a couple days, we've got a little bit more to do than usual, but I do want to make sure we get through all of it. We have a little bit more Denver Broncos content to discuss. Zoom in a little bit more on the Broncos. Number two, I do want to still get through a little bit of the betting stuff, because as long as I'm still giving good advice, I'll keep doing it. I know a bad week is coming, but generally it seems like I'm not just saying random things and giving terrible advice, so we'll just keep rocking it. By the way, I'll put the disclaimer now. I'm certainly not encouraging anyone to start doing this, you know what I mean? I don't need you getting in trouble with the significant other and ruining a beautiful marriage. It's not that serious. But if you already dabble, just a couple thoughts I'll throw your way. And if you're already very good at this, then you shouldn't care what I think. So the final thing that we should probably try to sneak in, and maybe I'll do it along with the Cowboys. I just woke up. Shut up. Do it along with the Broncos talk, is Positivity Sunday. I don't know that we can be super... the whole point is to not be analytical, so I don't think we can blend it, so we'll just have to do them as three separate things, I guess. I do want to start off with the official injury report. I ended the podcast yesterday just a couple hours before I saw it, but we'll go ahead and do that. Obviously, a lot of these guys are going to be game-time decisions. With that, the guys that are designated with a game status, Josh Jacobs is questionable, which I guess we'll call a good thing because he didn't participate Wednesday or Thursday and was limited on Friday. So he at least made the cut to be questionable. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend it's an easy decision, because I don't think it is an easy decision. This is a very, very important game against a very, very talented team. Remember, fraud doesn't mean bad. It just means you're not quite as good as your record says you are. And fraud might even be a little strong for them. They're the number one team. They're probably top 10 team, but not quite top 5 in that range. It's more of a minor correction than like a massive just dunk in your face kind of thing. And with this heated NFC North race, not only with the Bears, but also Detroit. I mean, we dropped this game and Detroit wins. We're fighting for our livelihood here. So it is a massive game. However, on the other side of that, we have a really bad track record of playing these types of guys that are kind of on the fence, and they end up getting hurt and staying out for a long time. We just saw that with Lucas Van Ness. Now, it's not most of the time, but it does seem to happen far too often, where we kind of panic about an upcoming game and force somebody in that isn't ready, which I feel like should almost happen never. I understand there are probably some things that are out of your control. Certainly different injuries are out of your control, but the Van Ness thing, if you can't tell, really annoyed me, because 6 snaps in, he re-injures the exact same thing that was injured. He clearly was in no way ready to play. I don't know what kind of freaking stress tests you're doing or can do. Maybe some things you just can't tell unless you put under massive strain, and you don't want to just put it under why wouldn't you if you think he can handle it? I don't know. Speaking of, Van Ness is also questionable. Fingers crossed on that one that he can play. And when I say he can play, I don't mean fingers crossed we push him back so early he gets injured and we won't see him again till the freaking playoffs or something. Let's get it right. Get it tight. Christian Welch, also questionable. If you remember, he's on our team. And then Savion Williams, who, I'll be honest, even I kind of blanked. Whenever I talk wide receivers, going into the future, I forget that Williams is a legitimate contender to be a piece. The fact that he and Golden came in at the same time and Savion was the guy that really started to pop, that it's Savion that started getting the targets and receptions first. It's Savion that gets more of the gadgety stuff as well as the routes run. It's Savion that got the first touchdown. It was Savion that got like the game-saving third down completion down the field when he had a broken freaking foot. You know what I mean? Like, he's putting out the I'm a big dog vibes. Like, this is for real. Now, how real, I don't know, but I am beyond excited about, let's just say, getting him back and seeing how it goes. Out in this game are going to be Brenton Cox, Marshawn Lloyd, and Colin Oliver. The Marshawn Lloyd thing, man, holy cow. So it's one thing if it's just like he's not ready yet. You know, Colin Oliver was injured and is still not ready. Granted, this is Marshawn Lloyd's second year, but, you know, whatever. We're still just waiting for him to get back. Well, kind of worst case scenario happened. Earlier this month, Marshawn Lloyd was put on the 21-day return window to return from IR. He has 21 days or he gets shut down for the season. Well, he was practicing Wednesday, practiced Thursday, Friday, he has a hamstring injury pop up. This is not what his initial injury was. He had a calf injury that kept him on IR. So he'd been back for like 2 days practicing and hurt his hamstring and is now shut down. The concern now is he even going to make it back in time for his 21-day window? Because if he is not, then he is done for the year. Now, I'm sure you could push it and activate him, which is to say just put him back on the 53-man roster. But number one, what is the rush to have Marshawn Lloyd, who is not ready? I mean, he's played like 5 snaps for the Packers. Like, we don't need him. We got 3 guys that the Packers like a lot. You got Josh Jacobs, number 1. Granted, this week if it would be nice to be able to say Josh is hurt, Marshawn Lloyd can go out there. But aside from he would be a nice backup third running back, you got Josh Jacobs, you got Emmanuel Wilson, and then you got Brooks, who, if nothing else, has proven to be a really good blocker and just seems to be a solid guy all around. Not to mention, if you're going to take up a spot on the 53, somebody else has to go. That's a spot for a guy that we could actually use. That probably also is filling in for injured players. So I mean, this may be a minor hamstring tweak, and he'll be fine by next week. That's obviously the hope. Sometimes stuff, I mean, especially since it was the Friday practice that he tweaked something, you know, it makes sense that you would kind of, whatever. He's not going to end up playing. It's possible that if it happened on Wednesday, he could have been back by Thursday, Friday, maybe. I mean, these soft tissue tweaks can be like a couple days to season ending. It's so freaking, such a big, wide range. But he has until, I believe, the 21st to get back on the 53, or he is shut down for the season. So, I don't know. Colin Oliver and Brenton Cox also out, which means Banks, Bullard, Enigbare, Golden, Jordan, Reed, Jordan Riley, the guy we just added at DT, Zach Tom, and Dontavian Wicks are all going to be full go for this game. Most of the guys listed were full participants on Friday, which is good news. In fact, was it most or all? I think Aaron Banks was limited, but that was just a veteran rest thing. If you were sitting there listening carefully and are like, wait, what happened to frickin' Banks now? That's something I wouldn't catch, by the way. Everybody's just hurt all the time. I don't know who's on the injury report day to day. Yeah, Zach Tom was limited with his back injury, but is still full go. And I do think that is actually bothering him. I've mentioned before that, you know, his grades, they're still good. I'm holding him to the Zach Tom bar. If he was any other offensive lineman, I'd be talking about, holy crap, we got ourselves a stud here. But for Zach Tom's standards, something's a little off. If I had to guess, it would be his back. All right, that's it for the news and notes. I have to do just a touch more laughing at the enemy. I just want to slip this one in here because I'm some of you aren't getting it, and believe me, the stick guy is super annoying, and I can't stand that freaking guy. But that's one guy who's very obviously trying to be a troll. This is legitimately Bears fans trying to think. Okay, can I just share this with you? Very similar to exactly the examples I gave yesterday, where the person immediately contradicts themselves. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. This is from Kirsten Tannis, who is repeatedly saying things on here about the Bears, and we'll leave it at that. She says, there is a video of Caleb making a very good throw. And this is something Bears fans and even the national media just does not understand. And I don't know why. I don't know, man. Maybe you and I are just geniuses. You know what I mean? I thought these things were common sense, but maybe you just have to be a freaking genius to understand these concepts. But I think what seems to escape Bears fans, going all the way back to Trubisky and probably even before that, I don't know, is the fact that one really good pass doesn't make you a good quarterback. And they didn't learn that under Trubisky. They didn't learn that under Fields, and they certainly aren't learning that now. But the Caleb Williams fan club posted this video. He's another just giant troll. I mean, to be fair, it's a good throw. I mean, he didn't say anything trolly about it, which is, I mean, is that so hard? If you want to post a great play, just post a great play and be like, dang, that was a good play. I'm not gonna say anything about that. You're right. That was a great throw. But when Kirsten and people like this come out and say things like this, she says, the thing I love most about this throw is, remember all the chatter during training camp when Caleb missed those throws into the net drill? Some analysts legit acted like it was cause for concern. This is an absolute laser into the tightest window imaginable, on the move, LOL. Okay, just before we even get into the very, very, very obvious response to this, you're going to have to explain to me, because you start off saying, remember when people said accuracy would be an issue? And then you say, this is a good throw. Now, you could remove every other piece of information. What team, what quarterback, remove the video, remove everything. I'm just looking at the line of logic here, okay? You know, the A plus B equals C thing, that whole algebraic, however that all works, you know? I'm just trying to understand, under any context ever, how could this throw is a laser into a tight window be an LOL, as in gotcha, response to I don't think he's accurate? Now, maybe there's a misunderstanding. Maybe what people thought, and this seems to be what Bears fans think we mean every single time we make fun of their quarterback's accuracy issues, because they all seem to have them. Maybe what they're misunderstanding is they think what we mean is that they are incapable of ever throwing an accurate pass ever. It's just not possible. They can only ever make really inaccurate throws. So if you happen to be listening and think that that's what we meant when we laughed at your quarterback for missing every single one of those easy pocket shots into the net, I assure you that's not what we meant. You could have placed a bet right then and there saying, I'll bet you $1,000 that he throws at least one accurate pass this season. 0 Packer fans would have taken that bet. Believe it or not, contrary to what you seem to believe is the situation. But I don't think that's even the case, because again, we get this nonsense. So I wanted to comment, but I'm like, just freaking leave it. Just leave it alone, leave it alone, leave it alone. I mean, some of this stuff is so obvious that it's not even worth saying it. And fortunately, there are some rational Bears fans, and like I said, I should just focus on like retweeting these people and being like, so happy to see there are rational Bears fans, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I mean? You got to word it better than that, but something just to be like, these are the accounts that should be getting all the attention, not Caleb Williams fan club with their trolley stupidity. But several people have pointed out, including Mr. Bruce here, who hilariously said her name wrong, which I find hilarious. I'm sure it was an accident, but it just makes it that much more stingy. He says, hi, Kristen. And it's like, yeah, actually, it's Kirsten. Good. Now, you know what? I should comment and be like, hi, Kristen. Actually. But Bruce just points out, like, yeah, he's pretty inaccurate, dude. He was really inaccurate in this game, actually. She says, I'm aware. I watched the game, too. I've seen all the numbers. I'm not bothered by it, given it's his first year in Ben's complex offense. Again, with his first year stupidity. It's his first year, so obviously in your first year you have to be bad, and then obviously in your second year you have to be good. Everybody knows that. Lots of people, including Bears fans, like Bad Dog Rio Jones, says, it has been cause for concern. This was a great throw, but Caleb missed some layups wide open with zero pressure, et cetera, et cetera. And she has like one response that she just copy and paste to everybody. And it says, I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's several freaking paragraphs. But it's The very first line. Yes, accuracy is still an issue, but I believe it will improve. I don't need to read literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 different lines. They're not really paragraphs, but she broke them into 14 different lines. This is how you know what you said is stupid. When you have to completely contradict your entire post and then write 13 other lines of information to try to make up for it and try to make it seem like this is how I know he's going to be elite someday. I just know it. But that's not the point. Why did you make a post saying accuracy isn't an issue if you're going to immediately follow it up with, yes, accuracy is still an issue? Can we just delete this whole interaction? Because this has been a waste of everybody's time. Remember when people made fun of him for missing those throws? Yeah, because he's inaccurate. I know he's inaccurate, but, I mean, he'll get better. Great. That's an interesting little point, which has nothing to do with the conversation we're having right now, does it? The only question right now is he accurate or is he inaccurate? And within 5 seconds of you posting this stupidity, you said, yes, he's inaccurate. Your feelings about what's going to happen next year, also irrelevant. Every other one of these 13 lines of information you wrote, irrelevant. The only question I have is he inaccurate? And the person who posted the post, who tweeted the tweet, immediately follows up with, yeah, well, I mean, obviously accuracy is an issue. Okay, then shut your stupid face. Why do you do this? It's the same with the caller yesterday. Dude spent 45 minutes trying to get on the radio so that he can say that Caleb is elite, except he's not, but he will be next year. Why are you calling? Why are you calling? Why are you on the radio right now? What could you be doing something else? Are you sitting in your car at work? Is this your lunch break? I'm dead serious, man. If there's one thing we need to change with our educational system is that logic has to be added to the curriculum. You can take out some of the other math stuff because it's basically math. We don't need all the high-level bull crap. We could do, 3 levels of that. Start off one in like middle school. You could even do a basic thing in elementary school, do some in middle school, and then hammer it in high school. People should be experts at this because this is freaking tiring. I feel like logic should be so basic. It's like mathematics. It's like addition. To where if you went online and said something this stupid, it would be like going online and saying 6 + 6 is 19. Everybody would just be like, "What are you talking about? This is obviously incorrect." Instead of actually having a debate about this as though maybe it could be correct. No, it's not. Based on math, bro. And everybody should know that. And everybody should just... First of all, a post like this should never even be made. But if a 5 + 5 is 19 post gets made, it should just immediately be disregarded. Oh, you're stupid. Okay, great. Anywho, let's take a break. I had to slip one in there. I mean, I didn't. It wasn't even part of the plan. I thought about maybe doing it. I'm like, nah, we're short on time. And then I just saw that because I have to obviously be perusing, and that had to happen. I mean, come on, guys, can you please just frickin' think for a minute? We'll take a break. We'll be right back. All right, let's talk a little bit more in depth on Packers-Broncos here. I think this game, even though it's AFC versus NFC, and although it's, I don't know, how important even is this for Denver? I mean, the Chiefs they've created a little bit of distance here. Yeah, 87% to win their division. So, I mean, obviously it matters. It matters much more for the Packers with the Bears and even Lions nipping at their heels. Broncos have 2 games ahead of the Chargers and are, oh my lord. So the Chiefs are basically out of the playoffs. They got a 12% shot of making it. That's wild. It's crazy too looking at the Eagles winning the Super Bowl. And I know the Chiefs have obviously had a bit of a down year, but acting like the Eagles last year beat this like superpower Chiefs team that 5 seconds later has a losing record and missed the playoffs. That ain't the same Chiefs team. But anywho, it's kind of an interesting matchup because it's AFC versus NFC, so a lot of the noise is kind of stripped away about commonality. These are 2 teams that don't know each other at all. The Broncos do have a little bit of the fraud label. The Packers, on the other hand, have a very volatile label, which is, in a way, kind of another way of saying it's not really fraud, but it's just sort of an I don't trust you kind of thing. Are you for real kind of a thing? Both teams are kind of dealing with that. And so I think that's kind of the biggest narrative, at least outside of, the NFC North and the AFC West, where it matters for other reasons. But I think on a more zoomed out scale for people that are observing and trying to determine, which team is for real or not. This game matters a lot. Whichever team loses, which is going to be an overreaction either way, but whichever team loses, if the Broncos lose it, see they're frauds. If the Packers lose it, see they're not trustworthy. And then, if the Broncos win, that's all the proof in the world, despite the fact that on the other side we're saying the Packers aren't legit, but that never seemed to stop anybody. The Broncos now are no longer frauds. They're legit. They beat a real good team. Packers, likewise, if they end up winning, it'll be, they beat a top team. And they are, in the NFC, one of the top teams to contend with. It's a legitimacy fight, is what it is. We didn't really talk about it yesterday. We went through all the different players without really getting into any specifics. It probably was a bit self-evident going through it, but this is a defensive team. Their offense isn't bad. Bo Nix is fine. Cortland Sutton is fine. Some of the offensive linemen are very good, but, contrasted with a couple that are not as good. Tight ends are eh. But it's the defense that's really stands out for this team. It's a Vance Joseph defense. It is a defense that leads the league in third down efficiency, which is problematic for the Packers, who have had a lot of their success being, as you've heard a billion times by the freaking announcers, the best team in football on third down. I guess you could look at that either way. I mean, it's bad for Vance Joseph's defense as well to have that be sort of your bread and butter, and now you've got your toughest challenge in that third down area. So that'll be an interesting matchup. Likewise, they're also a very good red zone team, which makes sense. I mean, listen, if you're a good offense, it's probably because you're good on third down and red zone. If you're a good defense, it's probably because you're good on third down and red zone. I mean, that's going to be a huge part of it. Sometimes you are like the Bears, where you're terrible at those things, but you get a lot of picks. But again, I care less about that because those are not as sustainable as being a team that is just good at fundamentals like tackling and whatnot. On the other side, Sean Payton on the offense, which is a smart way to play. When you're a defense-led team, you need your offense to just not be a liability. And so with Sean Payton on the offensive side, it's more ball security and situational management. Let's just not be stupid. Let's not do catastrophic things. Let's not give the ball away. And let's make good decisions on a play-to-play basis. The obviously one of the main factors, and this is true for everybody that has to go there, but it's something to consider. It's kind of like playing in Florida with the heat in September. The altitude does make a difference. Specifically, the end of the fourth quarter, guys start getting gassed. They start getting real gassed. And that's where I worry a little bit about this defensive philosophy of bend, don't break that we've been employing, because our guys are not going to be able to hold up as long in this altitude. It's very similar, again, to the heat. They're not going to be able to hold up. Another area where apparently it's a big struggle is that sort of middle eight, end of the first half, start of the second half, teams playing in Denver. Those generally are really difficult times. And when you put it all together, I mean, it's a lot of football. The middle eight plus the second half of the final fourth quarter. I mean, you've got yourself a bit of a disadvantage. And so that, as time goes on, that oxygen deprivation can accumulate, and things like, pass rush is really hard to sustain. I mean, even just run defense. I mean, it's constant. You think about what these guys do, especially along the defensive line, it is just maximal exertion. For pass rushers, it's a little bit more speed, get up the field, bursts of energy. Defensive line, it's sumo. It's you smash into somebody and then you're just, for a period of however many seconds, exerting as much power as you can. It's incredibly tiring. Denver likes to use that to their advantage. In Denver, typically you're going to see them play at a little bit of a higher tempo because they know you're gassed. Again, this is Sean Payton just trying to maximize, just being smart. Any little minor edge we can get. So you ramp up the tempo a little bit at home. Guys are lagging. Guys are dragging. And this is where having a guy like Lucas Van Ness can be a massive benefit, not just because of what he presumably could do as far as his talent, but just having the ability to rotate is going to be key. We got to have guys out there that can be fresh. Looking at their offense a little bit closer under their offensive coordinator, Joe Lombardi, you've got Payton and Lombardi that have kind of created a West Coast / Air Coryell hybrid. And so, West Coast generally is more horizontal spacing, timing. Air Coryell more vertical spacing. And so you have some of that attack down the field while also using that vertical spacing and threat to open up some of the underneath, more West Coasty stuff. But Evan Ingram is a big part of what they do on their vertical seam routes. He's sort of their Luke Musgrave. Bo Nix in this offense is kind of just, I know Denver fans would be upset, but just the way that Sean Payton is setting this up, they kind of just want him to be a game manager. Again, the defense is doing a lot of the heavy lifting. Outside of that, I just need you to be smart and not stupid. We have a scheme and an offensive design set up a certain way to be able to get guys open. I need you to be the point guard and just distribute the ball to the open guy on time in rhythm. And so they just need a very intelligent quarterback that understands what's supposed to happen when and what the smartest decision is in a given moment. And as long as you can do that, we believe we can score enough points to overcome what our defense is going to set the bar at, which I think they're allowing like 18 points a game or something. So don't put our defense in a bad situation and go see if you can get us 20 points. The Vance Joseph defense is a very aggressive defense. We've talked about how there's kind of different styles that we face throughout the year. Sometimes it's a little bit more, we're just going to send 4 and keep everybody else back because we can do that. And sometimes you get more like the Minnesota Vikings style of just constant motion and aggression and just putting you under constant stress. This is more of a constant stress type of a defense. It is a 3-4 team, and a lot of times when you face those 3-4s, we had it for many years. One of the things they love to do are their exotic blitzes. You never know who's coming and who's going and all that kind of stuff. Granted, a lot of the 3-4s that we saw when we were doing it was not exotic. It was just a basic 5-man with 2 guys coming off the edge. But generally speaking, these 3-4 guys like to have a lot of moving chess pieces. They have their double A gap mug looks and all that. In other words, we're going to put everybody up on the line. You don't know who's coming. We're going to dictate to your offensive line how you have to block, and we're going to manipulate that. The Packers, by the way, are doing that masterfully. Despite, I think, generally wanting to be a team that just rushes 4, Hafley is having himself a freaking blast with putting Mike on the line and then dropping him. As much as you want to do that as little as possible, holy crap, does that work so well. We got like 2-3 free rushers coming off the edge because everybody's going after Micah. It's crazy. No, what the hell? They're just going to hold him anyway, so Micah can't get home. Hold D's, you know what I'm talking about? But some of the things to know about the Vance Joseph defense, at least in 2025, emphasizing pressure over coverage. They're one of the highest blitz rate teams in the NFL. This is ultimately good for us. And we'll see if they change this, but this tends to work when you have quarterbacks that can't handle it, right? Usually I like when we have a defense that's like this or whatever, when it's against a young quarterback or a guy that can't really find whatever, especially if he's not particularly mobile, like he's going to get lit up. The reality is, though, Jordan Love is, this was always kind of a bad thing against somebody like Rodgers or Tom Brady or Peyton Manning because they're just too smart. They know what you're doing. They understand who's coming and who's not. They know where the ball needs to go. They know how to handle the situation under pressure. They'll be fine. Jordan right now is the best quarterback in football when he's blitzed. Talked about last week, he had like 100 almost PFF grade. It was like a 99.6 PFF grade while blitzed. And it's not all just Jordan. I mean, it's having the certain guys back. It's, the fact that we have Jaden Reed and Christian Watson. Like, if those guys weren't there, Jordan probably doesn't have that because we don't have the guys that can win. But we have guys that can win and can beat this. You want to blitz everybody and keep man coverage on somebody like Watson? Okay, here comes a touchdown. And it's particularly dangerous because you talk about a guy like Patrick Surtain, and it's like, he's really good. He'd be able to hold up. I don't know, man. You got to understand, there's a difference between Patrick Surtain being very good in the system that they're running and Patrick Surtain being on an island by himself with Christian Watson. Part of getting the best out of a guy like Patrick Surtain is not putting him in those types of situations. A good defensive coordinator is never really concerned about 40 time because you're never going to put your guys in a situation to be in a foot race, generally speaking. You're going to use things like pressing, you push a guy off the line. You've also got other safety help and all these different things so that somebody can't really fully utilize their speed. If you're going to play this, cover 1, cover 0 all-out blitz man coverage nonsense. I mean, Christian Watson is just going to release off the line. Even if you get a couple hands on him, he's just going to push right through you, and then he's gone. Surtain is like a 4.45 guy. He's not going to win a foot race. It's not his thing. So sending everybody is a real dangerous game because the Packers have too much speed. And Jordan is playing at too high of a level. He's going to see it and be like, okay, I'm just going to real quick throw to that guy. Now, they do have good pass rushers. Part of that is probably because of the blitzing is where you get a lot of these high numbers. You manipulate the offensive line in such a way, you send so many people, you're going to have a lot of breakdowns, which would make sense why PFF is not giving them super high grades compared to the high stat numbers that they have. There's probably a lot of schematic stuff going on there. But anyways, yeah, I tend to think that, I mean, everybody's got to be on their best, which is the thing, too. Even if you're good at it, you better be having a good day, because if you're struggling, if your accuracy is a little bit off, if your processor is a little bit slow because of friggin' jet lag, or if your receivers are not, on point, this defense is still going to beat you. But if you can't get there, and if you are playing at a high level, you will shred a defense like this. So, again, we will see if the Broncos decide to maybe back off a little bit. You've got some good pass rushers. Just send them and keep guys back. I feel like that's probably the best way to play the Packers, especially when you have good enough DBs and the offensive line for the Packers is not great. You can hold them off long enough to be able to give your guys time to beat our offensive line. Would be my thought, but you go ahead and do what you want to do there, Vance. Man coverage, obviously, when you're talking heavy pressure, they do a lot of cover one, man free, as well as cover zero. So we're just talking about safeties. In other words, not a lot of safety help. So this is the thing, too, where it's like we're going to send a lot of pressure. But these corners, man, you had better be ready to at least for a very, I mean, if the pressure doesn't get home, that's not on you. The whole point is you need to cover only so long. After that, the pass rush failed, and it's still your job to cover, but we don't really expect that to hold up. And if they can, that can be a problem. I mean, the pass rush is going to get there. It's not like we're going to block it for super long. And so if Jordan doesn't have somebody to throw to in that 2-second window, then their defense will succeed. Anywho, I mean, this gets as detailed as you could want it, but I think that's a decent enough overview because we got other stuff we got to get going here. So we got 2 things to do and 1 segment left to do it. I'm not exactly sure. I hate to abandon Positivity Sunday, but we might be going that path. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. Okie dokie. Looking at this week's slate of games, we're kind of in the same situation as we have been for some time as far as which games and teams matter the most. The biggest one outside of... there's obviously 3 main games. Packers-Denver is the most important. We have to win the game. If we do, we stay out in front, and we're all good. There's also Bears-Browns. I'm actually shocked to see that the Bears are 7.5-point favorites. Maybe I shouldn't be. I know Cleveland is bad, but I just feel like their defense is solid, and I don't know. I mean, if Shedeur just has a good game, I think we're calling it a coin flip if that's the case, but I guess there's no confidence in that being a thing. The other massive game, though, is Rams-Lions. And honestly, this is kind of a win-win game. If the Rams lose this game, our odds go from about 14% to about 25% to get the number 1 seed. Now, that's not necessarily massive, but it puts us much more in the serious contention situation. Now, the other game that matters, because the 2 teams that are out in front of us are going to be the Rams and the Seahawks. The problem with this thing being, if we remove the Rams from the situation, all that does is put the Seahawks as the number 1 seed. But if by chance the Lions and Colts win, it puts us at about 40% to have the number 1 seed. Now, as I've done before, if we assume that you have to win out in order to get the number 1 seed, the Packers, if they win out, have a 60% chance of getting the number 1 seed. That goes up to 82% if the Lions win. And if the Lions and Colts both win, then it is the Packers to lose. In other words, winning out means we will be the number 1 seed. So that's where those games become very important. I don't mean to minimize the fact that, even the playoffs are not a certainty at this point, but just so we're clear. It's also worth noting that we have a 95% chance of getting into the playoffs right now. If we win this game, it jumps to 99%. It's not actually quite 100%, but it is basically 100% if we win this game. And then real quick, looking at the division, which they're all different. Who to root for and all that stuff, it changes based on what the question actually is. So right now the Packers have a 68% chance to win the division. If we win this game, it goes to 80%. If we win the Bears game, that's assuming we don't know what happens, Broncos, Ravens, or Vikings. But if I told you today we will beat the Bears, 91% chance we win the division. So that is obviously the biggest one. This is the next biggest one. This is giant. If we win and the Bears win, we are at 76%, which is still a jump up, right? Because when you're in the lead, every week that goes by that you didn't drop out of the lead, your odds of winning the division just keep going up. So breaking even, perfectly fine. Breaking even in terms of we win, they win, we lose, they lose. The other game, obviously, is the Lions. If we win, then the Bears are much more of a concern because they're the ones that are at a race to the top with us. If we lose, then it's the Lions that are a little bit more of a concern because now they're the ones chasing us. In fact, actually, if either way, we drop to 50% if the Bears win and or the Lions win. But the Lions now are looking to completely overtake us at that point. So again, I'm probably leaning toward rooting for the Rams. Very obviously, we're all rooting for the Browns, but the only reason I say that is I just feel like the Lions are way too close, and that can change quickly. If we lose and they win, all of a sudden, I'm not sure we're going to be in the playoffs. If we can get another game of separation, or if we lose but they stay behind or whatever, I'll feel better about it. Whereas the odds of getting the number 1 seed are much lower. And as I've said, the number 2 seed is kind of awesome. It's not as good as the 1 seed, but the number 2 seed is fine. And I would take that. And it's worth fighting for that number 2 seed for sure. By the way, that is what the Packers' most likely seeding is. They have a 53% chance of being the number 2 seed in the NFC. And again, I'm not going to, if we win and the Lions lose, we will absolutely be happy and we'll be shifting our focus to boy, oh boy, although the NFC North will continue to be very tight, it'll be worth paying attention to. But I think without knowing the future, I'm probably just going to continue leaning toward the NFC North just needs to lose. All right, let's rip through some of these games real quick. I haven't gone through this yet, so I haven't really made any bets yet, so we'll kind of be doing this a little bit live. Be going just in order, not in order of importance or anything like that, just as it's listed here for me. Starting off with the Cardinals and Texans. This game has basically no impact on us whatsoever. Arizona would be the only one you'd need to be concerned about, and they are a 3-win team and have zero chance of making the playoffs. They are officially out of it, so irrelevant. Texans are 10-point favorites. Right out of the gate, Houston 10-point favorites based on my DVOA model. I've got it at 7 points, so that would be 3 in the favor of Arizona. Nothing massive, but just kind of something to put in the back pocket. Total is pretty similar, 40 to 42.5. Man behind the curtain says Cardinals plus 10. I'll play it safe here, pay the extra 10 cents to get to the key number of 10. Might be able to get plus 10 on game day. We did. I'm also expecting a lower scoring game, which is correlated with taking the points. This was 10, but Pro Money bought the key number, dropping it down 0.5 point. A clear buy low, sell high spot when looking at the last 5 games. The Cardinals lost 5 straight and failed to cover in 4 of 5. They're coming off a butt whooping to the Rams. Texans won the last 5 and covered in 4 out of 5, coming off a win against the Chiefs. I'm hoping Cardinals defensive tackle Walter Nolan is back. Still not convinced the Texans offense can put up big points on any team. Teams on a 5+ game losing streak who have also lost 9 of their last 10 games are 57% against the spread since 2003 when the game is in December or later. All right, so there's some agreement there. Again, I've got it as being a little too heavy toward Houston. Man behind the curtain tends to agree. Let's see what the experts have to say. Appears to be one of the very split games, and it's split between almost seemingly two philosophies here. I don't know if people just change how they talk or if it's just generally. But all the arguments in favor of the Texans to cover are, the Cardinals suck. Cardinals are massively injured. Houston has an elite defense. The other side seems to be, yeah, I know, but it's still too big of a spread. So it does sound like an absolute buzzsaw situation for the Cardinals. Again, Houston, very good defense. Cardinals, bad and injured. So, for example, other experts believe the line is overinflated and represents a classic opportunity to fade the heavy public action. So, again, I don't think anybody is arguing the Texans are in a much better spot here. I think the only argument is there's a bit of an overreaction and that there is some value to be had here. And especially, as he said, with the number actually getting to 10. I'm not going to put a ton on it because of the split decision, but it does feel like I need to put a little bit on the Cardinals here. All right, Jets, Jaguars. Jeez, Jaguars 13.5. There's a lot of games this week that I'm just surprised by the spread. Maybe I shouldn't be because some teams are just completely falling apart. I don't know, but we're getting some big numbers here. And how are the Chiefs 5.5-point favorites against the Chargers? I don't know. I'm getting ahead of myself. All right, Jets, Jaguars. According to my model here, we've got pretty close. My prediction, about 13 points. Vegas, 13.5. The spread, I've got it at 43.8. They have it at 41.5, so there's not a ton to work with there. Man behind the curtain doesn't have anything solid there. So, yeah, this is another one that's pretty split, and it's probably one to just stay away from because we got the whole new quarterback thing. Rookie Brady Cook is expected to start with Justin Fields and Tyrod Taylor missing practice. Jets are the worst passing team in the NFL, 147 yards through the air per game. That leaves them with just the ability to run the ball, and the Jaguars have a good run defense. So, again, the only question comes down to, yeah, the Jets suck, but is this too big of a line here? It does just provide a ton of cushion for some random variability to keep that low. Jaguars haven't proven to be an offensive powerhouse. The Jets beat the Jaguars last year, week 15, apparently, when the Jets were already eliminated from the playoffs. Probably just stay away from that one. Bills and Patriots. This one doesn't have a ton for me as far as the model is concerned on the spread, which currently sits at -1 for the Buffalo Bills. That's I actually do have New England as the slight favorite, but it's 1 point in the other direction, so it's 1.8 point difference, so it's not worth touching. The total, however, I have almost a 5-point difference on. 5 points under. They have it at 49.5. I've got it at 44.7. Man behind the curtain. It says taking the Bills money line here to carry momentum into the game from last week. Not much from a market standpoint, but I know some pros who are also on the Bills. The fact that the team with the worst record is favored on the road certainly sticks out. Pats on a 10-game win streak before the bye, and at times that can be a momentum killer. We have the Patriots 1.5 points better than league average. That's currently the 13th ranked team on my ratings. I'm sure a lot of people have them rated higher, and if anyone does, I wouldn't trust their ratings because they clearly don't factor in strength of opponent faced. We know the Patriots have played the overall easiest strength of schedule, but I don't think people realize just how easy it's been, especially the average offense faced. When you consider where the Patriots' defense ranks and adjust for opposing quarterbacks and offenses faced, this is a terrible unit. If you remove the one game playing against Josh Allen, the Patriots have played either rookies, Cam Ward, Dylan Gabriel, Jackson Dart off of a concussion, or quarterbacks that are struggling, like Geno Smith, Rattler, Fields, and Rodgers. Pythagorean theorem and standard luck ratings both point to Pat's regression. Divisional rematch games where teams lost at home and are now away favorites are 69% and 78% straight up the last 10 years. After Week 12, teams with a win percentage greater than 80% are typically overvalued. Betting against those teams are 58.3% against the spread since 2006. Short road favorites with high total, where the team failed to cover the spread the last game, and the game went over the total, are 66%. Definitely have more experts leaning toward the Bills in this game. We've got Will at third and long pick the Patriots. One other money line pick. Otherwise, pretty heavy in favor of the Buffalo Bills. Some of the reasoning behind it: rushing advantage. Bills possess the top-ranked rushing offense in the league. Favorable matchup against the Patriots, who've struggled against the run, ranking third worst against the run over the last month due to injuries to key defensive players. Allen is seen as the superior quarterback over Drake May. Strong ATS record in close games. In the first meeting, Buffalo lost partly due to 3 turnovers. Sharps expect the Bills, who are not traditionally a high turnover team, to play turnover-free football in the rematch. Bills are in a revenge spot after losing the earlier meeting. Coaches like Mike Vrabel, who won the earlier game against an opponent, have gone just 12-21-1 against the spread, 36.4% in rematches since 2014. Bills defense is currently ranked number 1 in the NFL against the pass. So, all right. Y'all sold me on it. I'll take the Bills. I'm not feeling super dominant. We'll do a small bet here. What about under? Anybody in on that? There's a lean toward the over. Okay, fine. Screw it. Won't touch it then. All right. We've got Chargers, Chiefs, with the Chiefs being 5-point favorites. Despite my off-the-cuff reaction, the model that I have actually has Kansas City as 6.5-point favorites as opposed to 5.5. So actually favoring the Chiefs slightly. The total, almost exact 41 compared to 41.9. So neither of those are very interesting. Man behind the curtain has nothing on this game. This one does look like a pretty even split. Not a lot of agreement here. So, all right, won't touch that one. It's going to be a boring week. Ravens-Bengals is of general interest to us only because the Ravens are coming up here. And the Ravens putting on a really good performance would just make me nervous. Kind of like if Minnesota does what they did last week again. Be like, oh, come on, bro. Don't freaking start with me. Ravens-Bengals, the only real interesting thing here is the total. Now, this seems to happen every week because Cincinnati's defense is so dog crap. I don't know if it's ever actually hit, but I've got the over big time. I have the total set at 62, whereas Vegas has it at 51. So I will contemplate that. Not much from the man behind the curtain. Definitely seems to be a little bit more in favor of the Bengals. Steve McKinnon does like the Ravens. Otherwise, Kenny Ducey says can't bet on the Ravens defense. Believes in the Bengals offense. Third and long predicted a Bengals upset, seeing the game as a pick'em, but siding with the explosive Bengals offense. Bengals will win outright, take the points. Questions why the Ravens are even favored on the road after getting blown out 2 weeks ago. Pick the Bengals to win outright, noting Lamar Jackson looks unhealthy. Leans Bengals, believes Joe Burrow is back to full health, will succeed against the Ravens' overrated defense, which struggles against the pass. All right, I'll buy it. Again, only slightly. None of these are massively selling me, but I'll buy that. Just hope Joe Burrow can make it through the game. Washington Commanders, New York Giants. I actually do have Giants much more favored than Vegas does. Vegas has Giants as 2.5-point favorites, which seems crazy. I've actually got them as 6-point favorites. The total is exactly the same. 46.5 for Vegas, 46.5 for me. So, all right, we got a slight lean toward the Giants based on that. Nothing from man behind the curtain. The pros not really liking this game very much at all. Only 3 bets that I can see. 2 Giants, 1 Commanders, and 1 bet for the under. So I will stay away from this game. Nobody seems to want to talk about it or anything of that nature. Then we got Cleveland Browns, Chicago Bears. I was actually surprised. I think I mentioned this. Surprised to see Chicago 7.5-point favorites. I figured they would be favorites. I mean, Cleveland is bad, and Chicago is seen as at least a pretty good team. I don't know, 4 points or something, I thought. I guess 0 people have any interest in the Shedeur resurgence. Because, again, he played well last week. And, you know, if you could buy into that and say Cleveland now has a good quarterback, I know it's very early, but if anybody said that, I don't know that 7.5 makes a lot of sense. Unfortunately, everything's leaning pretty heavily towards Chicago. Even the model here has Chicago at 10.5 points. And you could say, yeah, but that doesn't account for the new quarterback situation. However, the injury situation for Cleveland is devastating. Man Behind the Curtain has Bears -1.5 as one of the teasers of the week. Bears fit the optimized wrong teaser strategy, with those options being 38-18 this season. I can't see them losing this game. So in other words, 7.5 might be a little steep, but they ain't going to lose the game. I would place a little hedge bet on this, but I don't want to, because I can tell you exactly what's going to happen. And I guess I could do exactly what Man Behind the Curtain says, make a better hedge bet. I just don't want to bet on the Bears and then the Bears win by 3, and it's like, this sucks. So probably leave that alone as well. Raiders, Eagles. This one, as far as the prediction is concerned, almost exact. Vegas has it at 13 points. I have it at 13.2. As for the total, 38.5, and I have it 38.9. So there's nothing there. Man Behind the Curtain has nothing. As for the sharp betting, it's skewing a little bit toward the Philadelphia Eagles. The two primary reasons here, and this, by the way, it's Eagles -13. So any arguments that are just, yeah, well, the Raiders are just so bad. Yeah, I know, dude. That's baked in, okay? But the two primary things being, number one, Raiders are garbage, and number two, the Eagles are really backed into a corner right now. I can tell you this, there's no way I'm touching this. First of all, as I'm looking at it, a lot of the, and again, a lot of this is recent. They're making an argument for why 11.5 is not good enough. It's moved all the way to 13. There's different numbers. There's 11.5. There's looks like a range from 11 to 12. It's at 13, which means it's already been pushed out. Maybe it can be pushed more, but the point is the action has already moved it quite a ways away. Beyond that, part of the argument is the fact that the Raiders are going to be starting Kenny Pickett at quarterback. I don't like any of this. I don't like how bad the Eagles have been playing. I don't like trusting the Eagles offense to win by 14. I don't like that the Raiders have a new quarterback they're trotting out. I'm not saying any of this is enough to have me bet on the Raiders, although I think if I was going to, I would. I'm just staying all the way away from this. Raiders are dead last in points per game at 15.1. This sucks. I'm just not doing it. Panthers-Saints, we got a divisional game. Saints at home. Panthers 2.5-point favorites. I've got this much closer to a pick, with the Saints being 0.5-point favorites. That's a difference of only 2. The total, though, is a little bit more enticing as far as the model is concerned. I've got about a 5-point difference, 5 points less than the 40.5 projected. And as far as the experts, again, very split. In fact, it's literally 5 and 5 on either side of it, so there's just not a lot. I will say, though, 3 of the 5 that are going in favor of the Saints are from PFF, so that's kind of one whole deal. I'm guessing they're all using a similar model. In fact, one of them is the PFF model itself, and then you've got the PFF guys that work there. Then we got 5 independent people that are leaning Panthers, including Steve McKinnon, who has it as his best bet, saying 2 favorable trends. NFL teams playing on the road in revenge mode and averaging 28 points per game are 20-9 against their spread in their last 29 attempts. System favors road favorites coming out of their bye week. 97-67-4 against the spread since 99. All right, and then we get to the most interesting one here. Green Bay Packers at Denver Broncos. Packers 2-point favorites on the road. As for the model, nobody's going to really want to hear this. Vegas has the Broncos as 2-point underdogs. My model has Denver as 3-point favorites. Now, I know that may seem confusing because it's like, well, you said DVOA favored the Packers. I understand that. The other half of the equation is points scored as well as points allowed, and I do include home and away. And so presumably if this was in Green Bay, it would be a very different thing. Final score prediction, 25-22 for Denver. For the total, I have the over being 5 points over what Vegas has at 42.5. However, Man behind the curtain prefers the under. He says this is the same team profile matchup as Texans Chiefs and Eagles Chargers under last week. I'm expecting the Broncos to focus on limiting explosive plays and both teams to chew up clock. Packers coming off a Bears win and play them next week might be a little bit of a letdown spot. Side note, Pro Group came in early on the Packers. Broncos a bet against luck team, because they're, again, a lucky team. And there's some situational spots that favor the Packers. For example, when the Broncos are at home in the line of 8.5 or lower and a total of 41 or higher, the under is 71% in the last 10 years. Regular season games with spreads less than 3 are about 57% to the under the last 5 years. As for the experts, actually pretty heavy lean for the Green Bay Packers, as well as a couple bets for the under, similar to the man behind the curtain here. The only sort of contrarians here, there were 2 picks for the Broncos, and both of them were teasers, which is interesting because if presumably most of us just care about winning, the teasers for both of them, Dave Tooley and Steve McKinnon, set to tease it to Broncos 8.5, which means essentially we don't think the Packers are going to win by more than 7, more or less. I mean, it's more than 7, obviously, but in layman's terms, as far as the win, it's kind of irrelevant. It's more or less a bet that the Packers will not run up the score against the Broncos, which is different than saying I think the Packers will lose. So really nobody bet against the Packers here. Let me go through, well, let's start with those. Historical trends suggest betting against teams on long win streaks when they are underdogs, but chose Denver as a teaser leg for a hard-fought one-score game. So hilariously, he cited the fact that teams on long win streaks, like the Broncos, when they're underdogs, you should bet against them. So he's essentially saying the Broncos are a good team to bet against. However, rather than choosing Packers, which kind of makes sense, I guess, because, I mean, it's 2 points, so it's maybe a little bit more enticing than if it were 3. But he probably figures it's easier to just say Broncos plus 8.5 because it's probably going to be, it's more likely to be a close game than to bet on the Packers to win by more than 2. Dave Tooley expects a hard-fought one-score game and uses Denver in his Tooley's teaser portfolio. Also sees value in the line moving across a key number. On the under picks, again, that agree with the man behind the curtain here, Matt Humans predicts a 20-17 type of game, citing the quarterback's edge for love and respecting the Broncos' defense. Paul Bobby predicted a low-scoring game, calling the matchup a toss-up and pointing out the strength of Denver's pass rush, leading the league in sacks. As for the Packers bets, Silverback Bets picked Packers money line. You can tell how close everybody expects this game to be. Like, I'll pick the Packers, but his money line is not. Talks about how the Packers have the 4th best defense, Denver 3rd best. I don't know what metric that's in, but whatever metric he uses, I guess. Offensive efficiency, Love is significantly better than Knicks, noting Green Bay turns the ball over the least in the NFL. Jay All Day Show, again, picked the Packers straight up. Broncos have won 8 of the last 10 games by only 1 score and is skeptical of Bo Nix. Another guy from the Jay All Day Show did the same thing, picked the Packers, but just straight up. Believes Jordan Love will pick apart the Denver defense, noting the Commanders moved the ball easily against them recently. Will, over at 3rd and long, has the Packers at 2.5 and predicted the over. Predicted a 24-21 game. Predicted the good version of the Packers show up to win and cover, calling it an upset game because Denver is on a 7 or 8 game win streak. It's not great that he doesn't know the number. That's all right. Wes Reynolds, Packers money line, seems to be a very popular pick. Prefers the Packers, citing the quarterback advantage for Love and the strength of the Packers defense. Kenny Ducey, Packers minus 2.5, argues the Broncos are due for a loss. Packers' strong offense is sufficient to beat a Denver defense that has weakened up front. Joe Reary of Wager Talk believes Green Bay is a better team and has the offense to expose Denver's struggles, advises anchoring 6-point teaser with Denver. So that's all relatively promising. I mean, every single game we've done so far, it is split. Sometimes a little heavier one way than the other. This is the first game that it was really unanimous that people thought the Packers would at least win. Even the two teams that picked the Broncos, they either explicitly said or implicitly said the Packers are going to win, including even the last guy, Joe Reary, who said that his pick was Packers -2, but also advised that you could do Denver +8 or +8.5 as another pick option. Nothing's guaranteed, but it just makes you feel good when all the people that know their stuff are like, oh yeah, I take the Packers in this matchup. I'm kind of struggling here. I'm not going to do a hedge bet. Maybe I should, but I won't. I would do the under, but I don't know. 42.5 is 21-21, right? That would be the score to be the under. Is it going to be a lower scoring game than that? Certainly could be. Packers haven't been blowing the doors off of teams at all, and this is a very good defense. Teams are also not really blowing the doors off the Packers. I don't know. I suppose if I do it, it's almost somewhat of a hedge bet while also being a responsible bet, because if it is a high-scoring game, I tend to think that favors the Packers. Although if I bet the under and the Broncos run up the score on us, that's going to super suck. I'm not touching it. This is going to be a low betting week. I can feel it. All right, Colts-Seahawks. Again, very big game for us in terms of chasing that number 1 seed. The Rams-Seahawks are very much the teams we need to be concerned about. With that said, as I mentioned, very crazy spreads. 14-point favorites over the Colts. I mean, I kind of get it, but good Lord. As for the model, I've got it a little closer at 8.8 points, but a lot of that is not taking into account, for example, their quarterback situation. So I will ignore that for now. This game is very, very much split. 4 picking the Seahawks and 4 picking the Colts. So it's not great from that perspective. However, there is a pretty strong tendency for the under, which has already, well, it's actually not true. Mark D'Angelo, whatever, expects Seattle to get in and get out and shorten the game, avoid risk in order to prepare for the massive divisional rival matchup with the Rams the following Thursday. Colts are expected to score. Another one said their strongest lean for the game based on the belief that the Colts will not be able to score if Rivers is playing. Another one says Seahawks will try to shut the game down after gaining a lead to save players from wear and tear. I don't know why. I'm just feeling good about that one. I shouldn't, but I am. So I'm going to do that one. Maybe I'm just itching because I haven't bet on anything. Titans 49ers. 49ers 12.5-point favorites. This one's leaning very heavily in favor of the 49ers. In fact, I'm seeing nothing in favor of the Titans, and maybe it's because it's the Titans, but I would expect people that are good at this to not fall for that trap. Also, the over is pretty strong here. Titans are 0-10 against teams currently in the top 8 of their top 8 of either conference, losing those games by an average of 14.9 points. 49ers are rested after a bye, which was much needed due to injuries. They are expected to dominate. Predicted 49ers' explosive offense would prevail easily, giving the Titans little chance on the road after long travel against super well-coached team. Dan at Wager Talk did tease them down to -2.5, but still picked the 49ers. I can't imagine you're getting much for that, but that's fine. As for the over, which is also unanimous, Titans' defense encourages passing. They're 10th versus the run, 27th versus the pass in success rate, which is what Brock Purdy and the 49ers should do effectively, potentially putting up 30-plus points. This is viewed as a fraction low for two teams expected to score. And 2 other ones, not a lot of details, but both expecting the over in that game. So I'm gonna do both of those. I'm gonna put I put a little bit more on the over, although I shouldn't, because if it does hit the over, I could see the spread hitting. So I'll just do equal. Should I? No, I don't know. Screw it. I'll do it as a parlay. I never do that, but it just makes sense. If it's one, it should be the other. And then the last 2 are pretty big. One obviously bigger than the other, but we got Detroit Lions and LA Rams. This is another massive one for the model that, again, is not really going to be super popular. Kind of crazy. The Rams are 6-point favorites. According to my, oh no, that's right. I think something just got lost in transit. It is the Rams that are favorites? Yeah, the Rams are favorites. Never mind, something just got messed up there. I have the Rams at 7.5-point favorites. So that's actually quite close. The bigger difference here would be the total, which I have very much under. Total is set at 55. Understandable. You have two very high-powered offenses. However, it is Detroit on the road, which is playing a big factor in this. The official score prediction that I had is 28-20, essentially, with Detroit only getting 20 points. And again, that would not be the case if this was being played in Detroit. But the Rams have a pretty good defense, and Detroit on the road is not that great. So I do actually have it as an under. Let's see what the old experts are saying here. Kind of leaning a little bit heavier Rams. There are 3 picks for the Rams, including an upset money line pick, which is intriguing enough. The biggest reason for that pick is the higher stakes for Detroit. The Rams essentially have things locked up, although you are still battling for that number. I mean, you have the Seahawks nipping at your heels. The playoffs might be locked up, that's fine. But winning your division is very far out of your reach, and therefore getting that number 1 seed also out of your reach. You got a rival Seattle Seahawks playing a relatively easy game while you have maybe the toughest game left on your schedule. I don't know that I would really play up that part of it as much. I do get the Lions with their back against the wall part of it, but I don't know that the Rams are, playing down in any way. However, the Rams do play the Seahawks in 4 days, so there is sort of that, could they be looking ahead a little bit? But again, the Lions are, usually you would do that more with an easier opponent, I would think, but I suppose, some of this might be subconscious where you're peaking, You had 2 others who did pick the Lions with the points. Dave Tooley says he just thinks that the line is too high. It should be closer to 4.5. And then Steve McKinnon had Lions with the best bet, saying Jared Goff and Dan Campbell dominant 17-3 against the spread record as underdogs of 4 points or more since 2021. Now, to be clear, that's very relevant in terms of placing a bet. It's irrelevant in terms of who you think is going to win, because neither of those people, winning against the spread is different than winning. Just pointing that out. Even, Dave Tooley, again, saying it should be closer to 4.5. That means if it was -3, he'd be picking the Rams. Maybe not. If it was -1 or something, he'd be picking the Rams. You get the point. Anywho, on the other side, you have a bunch of different people picking the Rams. A couple things that they had to say. Rams are on a hot run. 7 wins in their last 8 games. 10-1 straight up. 9-2 against the spread in December since 2023. Detroit apparently has a poor record following a win. That's a surprising thing to see. Another one says, and also pointed to the under, so that I find that intriguing. But focused on the line's stylistic disadvantage against the Rams' defense, noting Detroit greatly struggles when Jared Goff is pressured. We know that for a fact. Also emphasized the Rams rank first in PFF team defensive grade and 9th in pressure rate. That is rough for Detroit. Somebody else says Rams are the best team in the NFL, points out when the Lions lose, it's typically by more than 6. 4 of their 5 losses by this margin. Another one stated the Rams have a slight edge due to their defense, and the game will come down to the trenches, specifically Rams getting pressure on Goff. Another guy says that Rams would win and cover, citing McVay being a genius and the Lions' defense being banged up. That said, though, as far as the total, there is one other person that said under. 3 more went with the over, so I'll probably just leave that alone. The question is, do I dare bet the Rams? I think if it wasn't the Lions, I would do it, because although it wouldn't even be that much of a hedge bet, because again, the Rams losing would not be the worst thing for us. There just is something about, sometimes too, when you get those really good teams like the Rams, this is an opportunity to make a statement, especially against a team that is kind of like, it's sort of like when talking about Lions, when the young Lions come in against the old Lions, and you come in and you really want to prove yourself and you take out that old Lion, but at the same time, you are a young, jacked, freaking male Lion, and this old dude's he's been in a bunch of fights and everything, but he's old and crippled and everything. Like, it's not that fair of a fight. And so you go in with vicious intent. And the reality is, the other team on the other side is just not really that team. Now, again, if it was in Detroit, maybe, but I guess the only question would be, are the Rams going to be caught sleeping a little bit? But I kind of wonder, not only is your back against the wall as well, but you come into this game saying, like, this is a playoff game, we got to give it everything we got, and there might just be less resistance than expected. I'm gonna do it, man. Maybe it's stupid. If nothing else, I'm happy that I'm feeling this way, because this is the first time I've looked at the Lions and thought, not that they're bad, because they're not. But it wasn't very long ago I looked at the Lions and said, I don't care what their record says, this is one of the best teams in football. Now when I look at them stacked against the Rams, it's like, I don't know, dude, especially on the road where they don't do as well, especially against a good pass rush team, which we know is a big problem. You kind of sold me on that a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and do it. All right, last game, then we're out of here. Minnesota Vikings, Dallas Cowboys. You would think if you would have asked me in like July, just randomly, how big do you think this Vikings-Cowboys game is going to be week 15? I said, I bet it's pretty big. Truthfully, not so much. All right, we've got Dallas Cowboys 6-point favorites against the Vikings. Vegas is not fooled by the 9 show last week, apparently. The model that I have has Dallas as 8.1-point favorites, so pretty close there, just a 2-point difference. And then as far as the total, I have it 2 points over, so really not that big of a difference there. Nothing for the man behind the curtain. So let's close it out with what the experts are saying. And this one is, again, pretty heavily split. However, the over is the consensus here. So just going through a couple of the things people had to say about this particular game. McKinnon took the Cowboys -5.5 as one of his best bets. He says he has a system favoring late-season home favorites with a better record. So it is late season. Cowboys are at home. They are the favorites, and they have a better record than the Vikings is what that would be. He also notes the quarterback, Dak Prescott, is 19-7 straight up and 18-8 against the spread when his team is playing with extra rest, which is the best mark among active quarterbacks in that situation since 2003. Teams coming off a home shutout win like the Vikings have historically struggled in the next outing on the road. Will over at 3rd and long predicted the Cowboys would win 31-23, believing they would cover the spread, stated that he trusts the Dallas offense more than the Vikings offense. You do have some other people that aren't as big on that. Kenny Ducey says the Dallas defense is a massive liability and cannot be trusted. That was similar sentiment for some other people as well. However, the over, Thule generally favors betting overs in late-season NFL games with teams playing out the string, believing defenses are less motivated, leading to playground-like shootouts. Again, Will saying he believed the score would be 31-23, which would be the over. And then Evan Abrams has the over, but just in the first half. Dallas holds the best record in the NFL for first half over this season at 12-1. I'll take that as an over anyways. If you're over in the first half, the odds are going to be higher anyways that you're going to hit for the end of the game. So I'll go ahead and do that, and then we're going to get out of here. Y'all have a good rest of your day. I apologize about the Packernet After Dark. I'm not able to stay awake at this point. So what I may do is try to get up tomorrow and get you a After Dark earlier in the morning, since it is a little bit of a later game. So I don't know how many people are going to be willing to listen like during the noon games or whatever, but I'll try to get it out there for you if I can. I'll talk to y'all later. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
NFC North, we run crashing through the D, suffocating the lead pack. We own the sky, watch the playoff, hope's die, streak is gonna burn, Denver's gonna learn. Crash through the trenches and hunt down the Broncos. We slam like the pack in Pacula. Crash through the trenches and stomp out their chances. We slam like the pack in Pacula. feast. Crash through the trenches and hunt down the Broncos. We slam like the pack in Pacula. Crash through the trenches and stomp out their chances. We slam like the pack in Pacula. Run it, Lambo, run it, Lambo, run it. Run it, Lambo, run it, Lambo. Hunt like an animal. 4 straight wins in a row. Now we coming for more. 12 and a half from Parsons, bringing pressure like war zones. Cooper cleaning up plays. Nix is running out of days. Mile high won't save you now. Pack don't bow, we don't allow.